Okay,
Time for a little Q&A.
here we go.
We have a lot of questions spanning birth to parenting and all kinds of stuff. So we're just going to jump right in. Let's get started.
This is the Balanced Family Podcast with Ben.
And Jessica, there's a lot to balance when you have a family. Marriage, kids, health, career, while you're trying to balance all the opinions out there on how to do things right.
Today, we'll cut through the noise, tackle hard questions, and share stories as we try to get to the heart of the things that really matter. All right, so we have questions, and I like these because they range from different phases of life. Mm-hmm. We've organized them by birth through toddler parenting. Well, there's also one general one, or a couple general ones, and we can do those at the end too. So it's like birth, toddler, and then general questions.
Okay, and I don't have them actually organized here, so I'll just have to go through. But they definitely are in categories. There are categories here. So I'm going to jump into the birth stuff. How about?
Yeah.
Because that's going to be me.
Sounds great.
Unless you can always interject with your birth knowledge if you want, Ben.
No, I do want to mention though, these specifically came from our members inside of our private membership. If you're interested, check it out at balancedfamilies.com. It's an amazing community of parents and soon-to-be parents.
Okay. First question. I love this question. Why do you think OBs ignore evidence-based birth techniques?
Oh boy, that could
be its own podcast, but I don't think that first of all, I want to say, I don't think that they're willingly ignoring it. I don't think they're, like, I'm not going to do that. I think there's a mix of situations going on. I think that OBs have a lot of clinical practice and things that they see in their clinic that may not completely align with the research. And so because of their personal experience, they might be more resistant to things that are shown to be positive in the research. Mm-hmm. So there's that. Number two, and this is a big one, hospital policy. It actually might not even be the OB. It actually might be the hospital making policies and rules, because hospitals they actually make rules around how much Pitocin you're allowed to give, how long you're allowed to have a mom go with her water broken. All these policies are there to ensure that the hospital is safe from litigation. I mean, it's just the truth. It's the world we live in. Mm-hmm. And so OBs not a lot of time, they don't have to necessarily follow those rules, but it would be in their best interests, for them to, in general, follow those rules. Some OBs are more open to, taking those rules as more suggestions and policies more as suggestions, while others are a little bit more by the book. So that leads me to say that there are a lot of OBs out there that are very evidence-based.
Yeah.
And I personally have seen them as a doula inside of Northwest Arkansas. There are OBs that I absolutely love. There are OBs that I love them in principle because I'm a good person, but sometimes I question, like, what is happening here? And I think the main thing that I always like to say is just to be sure to research your OB and to really understand where they fall on that spectrum.
Yeah.
So
I think the only thing I would add to that is that there's risk with everything. And so when somebody is in clinical practice, they may feel more comfortable with a certain risk versus a certain other risk, even though maybe theirs is not, 100% evidence-based. Like when you talk to some OBs, you start to learn more of the nuances of why they make some of those decisions. And it's not just so conspiratorial, like, oh, they just want to avoid a lawsuit. It's many times it's not that, diabolical and stuff like that. There's a lot of factors at play between OBs and their practice and the decisions they make.
No doubt. All right. Next question. Chiropractor care during pregnancy, yay or nay? I do think I think it's a good thing. I don't think that it is the end all be all. I recently completed a certification as a Body Ready Method Pro, which really delves into the physiology and how to really prep your body for birth. Chiropractic care is one slice of that pie. There's actually a whole lot more that you could do that will probably have a bigger bang for your buck, so to speak, than just chiropractic care. So I think that if it's within your insurance plan and within your financial plan, then yes, I think it can't hurt. But I don't think that it is the magic wand that some people like to make it out to be, because I think there's just a lot more at play. Chiropractic care will not fix a fundamental postural issue inside of your body. So if you have postural issues, like if you hold your body, if you have tension in your body, one adjustment of your bones is not going to change your musculature and your habits of movement. And so you really do have to actually drill down even further into kind of more the root issues there to be able to really see change.
Wow, that always, every time you talk about this, I want to adjust my posture.
But you don't want to overcompensate. Anyway, there's a lot to this.
Yes,
okay.
Next question.
Okay. Next question. If you had to give birth in a hospital due to insurance, which I have done, what advice would you give? And there actually was another question that I didn't put on here about VBAC, and I had to give birth in a hospital due to insurance because I was having a VBAC. So there we go. What advice would I give? Few things. Number one, you absolutely must take a birth class. You need to know about hospital policies like we talked about. You need to know about the evidence. You need to know about the benefits and risks of stuff. You need to know how to navigate the interventions that you will be offered. It's not if, it's will. You're going to be offered interventions from the moment you step into the hospital. It's not to scare you. It's just the truth. I don't want people to be sideswiped by that. Number two, if it is financially feasible, I do think hiring a doula is really helpful, especially if you're wanting an unmedicated birth. They are experts in navigating the hospital setting and can really help. If a doula is not in the financial situation, then I think you should take our birth class and you should have your partner be your doula.
Daddy doula. We train them all the time. And they, are they as effective as a doula? No, I mean, it's not their job. They don't do it. They don't see, but evidence-based though.
It is. It's evidence-based to have a trained birth partner. And so I think to put all of the weight on your shoulders as the person who's giving birth, I think would be a lot. And you need to have an advocate. You need to have support inside of the hospital. And then the last thing I would say, and I briefly touched on it earlier, but choosing your provider really wisely. I was able to actually see a midwife in a hospital. And I drove, I didn't drive for this particular midwife, but I would drive. I would drive an hour and a half to go see a midwife in a hospital. To be honest, I would not bat an eye at that because I know my body well. And I know, how quickly I labor, which is not quickly. And I would not mind traveling to go see a really high quality provider. Yeah. And so I think that would be the last little tidbit I would give of advice.
What I would say in general, sometimes we put too much emphasis on externals. We as in human beings. Externals don't always determine our outcomes as much as our internals. So going into a hospital with confidence and positivity and the right mindsets, the internal stuff is going to have exponentially more impact than whatever external environment you're in.
And that's true.
And that's needed in any environment.
Well, and that was my experience with my VBAC. I had gestational diabetes. My water had been broken for over 24 hours. And I was confident. I knew my body. I knew what was going on. I felt good. And no one even talked to me. They all let me do my thing. And it was a great experience. And my midwife was not there. So they could have intervened. And so I think I was really knowledgeable. And they could tell, they knew, this lady knows what she's doing. We're going to let her do her thing. And it was great. So I think confidence, you're right. Confidence is a huge, huge component of this.
So it's get the internals right, then go see what external options are available. Finding the right OB, choosing if you have different hospital choices, that makes a difference.
But if you can't find a good OB, I mean, you have the right to informed consent and you have the right to say no. And I think a lot of moms don't realize that. And so, but you have to be educated. You can't just say no to everything. Yeah. That's a terrible idea because you might need to say yes to something. You never know. You got to be educated. So, all right. I want a home birth for number 3, but doubt myself because I got an epidural with number 1 and 2. She was induced. Encouragement. Girlfriend, induction labors are not the same as unmedicated physiological birth. Induction is so much harder. And I think that would be my encouragement is if you lasted for any amount of time with Pitocin, I've had Pitocin contractions. If you've lasted for, a good chunk of time with those Pitocin contractions without an epidural, girlfriend, you got this. You can do it. I think baby number 3, a lot of people consider a home birth for baby number 2 or baby number 3 because they're a little bit more comfortable with the birthing process. They know how their body works, maybe a little bit better. They, have some of their fears kind of diminish because they've done it before. And so if you have at all an interest in home birth, I think you should absolutely go for it.
Go for it.
Find a good midwife.
Right.
Get one that has, I think that there are lots of different flavors of midwives out there, home birth midwives. There are some that are incredibly hands-off. There are some that are more hands-on. You need to know if your experience is in the hospital, I would imagine you would want a midwife that's a little bit more hands-on.
More hands-on, yeah.
And so I think you need to ask questions about like, okay, what do you do for infant resuscitation? What do you do for hemorrhage? What are your protocols for hospital transfer? Do you accompany me to the hospital if I need to transfer? These are like quick questions that are just off the top of my head. Those are good questions to ask, and you'll get a good sense of whether or not you're talking with a midwife that has a plan. Because there's some midwives that, I'm not saying they don't have a plan, but they are a lot more chill, and you'll figure that out pretty quickly.
Yeah, I
go
say,
for it, girl.
Yeah, I say go for it. And you're right. A lot of moms do that for like baby number 3 and stuff, and it's just special. It's a whole new spin on the experience. You'll remember that forever. So I always say, like, if you have anything in your heart leaning toward that, like, just go for it. Like, that's a sign that you should do it, because not everybody has that. We never had that. We never wanted a home birth.
No,
we like appreciate it and love it, the thought of it, but we never had that. So we never went for it, but I would say go for it.
And the last thing I'll say is that if you don't feel like you have a good handle on how to like how to labor without an epidural, if you maybe got the epidural early or whatever, then I definitely think taking a birth class, even for your 3rd baby, is a good idea, just to have that added layer of confidence, like Ben was talking about earlier. Then it's like, like I'm ready, I'm ready to deal with these contractions. Like I'm ready. And so if you haven't, we actually have a lot of families who sign up for our birth class for baby number 3, baby number 4. We had a couple sign up that was on our membership who introduced themselves. They had baby number 4 and signed up for our birth class and just had their 4th baby because they wanted a different birth experience. And so that would be the last thing. I'm not meaning to shamelessly plug our birth class, but I think pretty much for any birth question, it's like you really getting educated is going to never be a bad thing.
Yeah. So. We don't have any data on that, but it feels as though like 30-40% are those second, third, fourth, not so much 4th time, but usually like 2nd or 3rd where they just want a different experience. It is not just first time moms that take birth classes. All right, Jesse, let's go on to toddlers. We got 2 questions about toddlers.
Technically 3 actually, because I combined 2 of them because we got basically the same question from 2 different people.
So I like this one. Bro, that's literally what it says for me. Bro, when did the toddlers ease up on me? When crying emoji and laughing emoji. Also, can you talk more about how you survived the toddler stage in the 2s now and OMG? I think this is triggering just reading this question, Jessica.
It's true. What do I say? The toddler stage is definitely difficult. Mm-hmm. It is a season. Mm-hmm. I can't say that there's any magic formula. The thing that you want to remember in the toddler stage is that consistency in the way that you handle your toddler is really important, and it's really tiring and it's exhausting, but you will reap the benefit of your effort if you just push in this season. And so that's honestly, I wish I could say, when did it get easier? I mean, the 3s were kind of intense in a different way. And we had girls, and girls at age 3 can be notoriously kind of intense. By 4, though, we were moving and grooving, wouldn't you say?
Well, I don't know. I feel like I thought 4 was rough.
Yeah,
but maybe. It's a different. I mean, here's the deal: parenting never gets easy, guys. It gets less physically demanding. It becomes more mentally demanding. When in the toddler stage, it's literally all of it: physical, mental, and emotional drain. Later on, you get some of that back, some of that energy back. But it is a season. But I think what can help is about the consistency. I think is a big deal. Like raising a toddler is like it sounds weird, but it's like the closest thing to training an animal. What I mean by that is it's a lot of.
We should definitely make a clip out of that and let that one go viral. That'd be
good. It's like raising a toddler is more like training an animal than it is like tradition. Like what do you think of when you think of parenting?
Right.
What I mean by that is like you're training your toddler how to respond to this, how to respond to that, how to obey you, how to, talk to people, how to
How to live.
how to hold something in their hand. I mean, like literally everything.
To not run out in the road. It's all the things.
Yes. And so consistency is big especially when we talk a lot about boundaries and discipline and stuff like that. It's all about just like this understanding. It's like conditional training. And if you don't know what that means, it's a psychology term, but it's like, it relates to just like positive reinforcements and negative reinforcements. And it's like, that is the game. And you do reap fruit from that. Like that. And I'm telling you the truth. That is like not just wisdom. That's like psychology. Like if you're consistent on things the behaviors you're establishing, practices, culture, like you do see fruit of that later on. And you just have to hold out hope.
Yeah, you do.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like when they're toddlers, like your expectations just need to be super low, and you have to be very long suffering and know that. I mean, I see stuff now in our girls. I mean, now as like full blown kids, it's like, wow, that's cool. Like they've learned to like pick up after themselves because we like train them like that
from age 1.
That is just like what you do. Now, we don't have to sing a song with them now to get them motivated.
Or literally move their hand to here's a block.
Yeah,
put
yeah,
it
yeah.
in the basket.
Yeah.
Oh my
you
gosh.
know, there is always, and on that note, just like about the song, like trying to make things fun can help you psychologically, and it's engaging for kids.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think what's so hard about having a toddler is that when you're just trying to get something done in the house and you can't engage fully with them. I know that sometimes you just have to like put pause on your life, engage with them, and then like you might get some of that attention back that you can devote to some other things. But it's complex, and it just really is hard. There are times you literally have to like block out the noise from your brain and like finish something. And I mean, I just remember those comical moments where it just feels like everyone's crying, baby's crying, toddler's crying, we're all crying. That's just how it is raising a toddler.
And I think when you add in most people, when they have toddlers, a lot of people have another baby.
Yeah.
And that then just takes it up to another notch, because then you're also breastfeeding or feeding or diaper changing or whatever. And it is a season. And I talked about this in the app. Someone was asking a similar question, and she was talking about just how she had just had a really hard day. It was like 16 hours alone with her toddlers, because her husband was working really late, and she's had a hard day. And I love being the person who is like a stage ahead, who can be like, it gets better.
It does.
Like it does. Like I do not experience that anymore.
Yes.
Ben can leave and it's like no big deal.
Yeah.
We can leave the house now. Our girls are old enough that I can go on a run and leave the girls alone for 30 minutes. I mean, it's like amazing, like life change when they get older. And so I think that's the main thing I want to say is that there's no magic wand. There's no magic thing. It is a season. It does end. Yeah. Right now is intense. We have all of the preteen girl drama going on, which is a whole other thing, but is it more intense than the toddler season and newborn season? No, it is not. It is. Yeah. It is not nearly as intense.
And it is unpredictable, and toddlers are wild. But listen, there is a science to it. And back on the whole, I talked about conditioning and training. You can go wrong in this stage of life, and it hurts you later.
And then you maybe wouldn't have an easier season later on.
Here's a great example, because I'm talking too general. Bribes. Okay, we should have a whole episode about how to avoid.
Let's write that down. That's a good one.
How to avoid bribing your kids. That is such a pitfall with toddlers.
And I see it all the
They're
time.
crying. They're screaming. Give them what they want. Quickly, mitigate the situation. That will bite you in the rear years down the road. I promise you.
Don't do it.
If you condition, I remember just like, even whenever I was tempted to give a bribe, I would flip the script somehow to give myself authority in that moment of kind of like, can you say, mommy, please, or like whatever it would be to put the authority back in my hands. Like it trains your kids that they cannot get what they want by just screaming for it. And because this happens all the time, especially with iPads and all this stuff, it's like chaos ensues and they hand the kid the iPad in the moment of the tantrum. That is like, you are literally training your kid that a tantrum equals iPad. Like it is science, people. And so
don't do it.
Don't do it. You've got to train it like a dog. It's just like training an animal. I hate to reduce it to a dog, but it's true. Like if you give a dog a treat at a certain moment, they will be conditioned to that behavior they were doing immediately before that treat. So you have to pay attention to what you're doing, how you're responding to your kids when you're toddlers, and later on, you'll save yourself a lot of headache.
I 100% agree. And man, it was hard in the moments because I wanted to take the easy route out, but it was like I knew, don't do it, Jessica. And we didn't. We actually didn't. And I'm saying that I'm in an easier season right now. Maybe the part of the reason why our season is easier is because of all the work that we put in. I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely is,
I think it
Jessica.
is.
Yeah,
I know.
definitely.
I never want to take credit. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I'll take credit, but I won't take credit because I did anything. I learned from parents before me. I learned by listening and watching from other parents who I respected their kids. I respected the way they did things. And I took notes, and it's like, how do you get your kids to respect you? Like how come your kids are so functional like that? This is amazing. And we learned.
It's true.
So, and we put in the work, but it's not, our home is not perfect. Our kids, every home has issues.
Our kids whine for stuff all the time still.
Yeah.
It's not it's not as if they just know that they're not going to get it. They still
that's
try.
Kind of funny. That's we never bribe.
No.
And our kids will still whine. It just, they give up pretty quickly.
It's like a little
they give up pretty quickly
whine.
Because in a home where parents give bribes, kids are very persistent and they will eventually get what they want. And because they've been conditioned to know that they'll get what they want.
And they know that mom and dad will eventually break if they push hard enough.
Yeah, exactly.
And our kids know that we will never break.
Yeah. Now we troll our kids.
Oh yeah.
If they start whining about stuff, and that's always fun. Sometimes they appreciate our sense of humor. Okay, this is a good question too, Jessica. When to transition toddler away from baby things? Those are big transitions. Crib, pacifiers, diapers, etc. Before the next baby arrives. So this mom's pregnant before baby arrives. After, she says toddler will be 2 years, 3 months.
I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah.
I definitely would not do all of that all at once.
Yeah.
That would be really intense. Okay, let's go down the list. Crib. I think that, I have conflicting thoughts right now.
That gets into a lot of stuff
because on the one hand, you might need that crib for your baby. On the other hand, though, once you put your toddler into a bed, they are no longer contained. And
wait as long as possible.
You are going to have to deal and have consequences for when they get out of their bed, when they're supposed to be in bed. It's going to amplify the parenting level for you. And so if you can spare the crib, I would keep them in the crib until it is no longer safe. It's no longer safe when they are literally able to climb out of the crib.
Let me put it this way. When it's no longer safe, put 3 air mattresses and pillows everywhere so they fall over and not break their head. I'm just joking. It's hyperbole, but the point I'm trying to make is
keep them in that crib. As long as they will do it. Pacifiers, I definitely think you should cut out the pacifier. I think that would be a good thing. It's a good thing just in general to do around 2, just with oral function. I think that for me, what I've seen work the best is cold turkey. I had a friend, she said that she took her toddler. This just was a cool idea. They had a big ceremony and he put all of his pacifiers in a Build-A-Bear. They actually did a Build-A-Bear and they put the passies in the bear. And so he said bye to his passies and now he has this bear that he gets to have with it. And she said it was really intense for about a week. They went cold turkey. He stopped sleeping well for about a week. But then after about that week, then things leveled out. So
I like that.
Yeah, it was kind of cute. And I thought that was a good idea. Diapers, I think it depends on the gender, depends on the age. At 2 years, 3 months could be a little soon. If your toddler is showing interest and is showing all the readiness signs, we were just having a debate about this on the membership about when is a good time to potty train. And I think that there's a lot of different schools of thought on that. I really liked, again, kind of the more cold turkey methods where you like take a whole weekend and they run around naked and, you try to avoid pull-ups unless you're, in a situation where you couldn't take them to the bathroom quickly or whatever. That was probably my most preferred method. We did potty train, when I had my third, we potty trained Millie right after I had Josie. Do you remember that you potty trained actually, if I remember correctly?
Oh, I did. Okay.
Yeah, you did.
Go me. I don't remember.
Yeah. And then at daycare though, our third, Josie, she got potty trained at daycare, which was awesome. Go
daycare.
I'll tell you what, peer pressure with potty training is excellent. And when all of their friends are using the potty, it makes it so much easier. So I would say it just depends on your circumstances, if your kids are in daycare, et cetera, as to when. But in general, I know what your thought is. Like, should I do all of this stuff before the baby comes? Here's the deal, is that it's going to be a transition no matter how you swing it. Whether you do things before baby or after baby, you will see a regression in some stuff after you have baby. Almost all toddlers regress in their behavior, in the new skills, like pottying, for example, or anything like that. You're going to see a bit of a regression. That's just normal. It's behavioral. They're wanting their attention back from you, and sometimes they'll do whatever they need to do to get that. And so I don't know if it's like that much of a difference, whether or not you do it before or after.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Like a lot of things, you can overthink it. It's almost like the two things I think about is think about what's just developmentally flows for the child and don't rush things. Mm-hmm. The other principle is don't feel bad about preferring yourself. Kind of like with the crib thing, if you want to prefer yourself, there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, baby needs to be safe, toddler needs to be safe, but like imagine what your life will be postpartum. And if one of those developmental shifts is on the fence around then, and you would rather just get it over with. If you'd rather wait, not a big deal.
Yeah.
Hey, one thing about the membership, we do have a really active parents of toddlers group in the membership. If you're not a member of Balanced Families, check it out.
You should check it out. We were talking about potty training the other day. So
yes, you learn from the collective community.
Yep. There was one more. No, there's not another toddler.
So these are the last two questions are kind of general. I'll just read those two. So what is something that pre-kids you thought you would never do, and then once you had kids, you changed your mind on?
I love that question.
I like the question a lot. I don't have something right now on my mind, but I'm going to think about it.
I do.
Great. Go for it.
I think screen time. I think I had.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I am never going to something to do with screens. Have my kids watch TV. I'm gonna have all of the wooden toys and the imaginary play, and they're just gonna independent play.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Like what? No. And you guys know from if you've listened to the episode about screen time, what our opinion is on that. You should listen to it if you haven't.
Balance.
So yeah, I definitely had some opinions about screen time. I think the other thing, I had specifically to screen time, I had this weird, judgment about parents having their kids have screens at a restaurant. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I had we typically do not have our kids.
Yeah, we
use
actually
screens,
don't. Yeah.
But there have been some select times when we'll bust that screen out. And I would have said I would never do that. Now I'm like, we very much 90% of the time we don't. But then there's that 10% where we're desperate or we just want to chill or on vacation. That's a lot of times we'll use it on vacation. And so, yeah, that was something I had a big opinion about that doesn't really happen as much anymore.
That's a really good question. I don't have anything like crazy that comes to mind. I think maybe like childcare, I'd always thought, it just economically and socially and developmentally makes sense for kids to be home as long as possible and not be institutionalized essentially. But I think that changed for me when we found the private school that our kids go to that also has a preschool. Like when we connected with the people, then just the way they do things and the relationships, and we could finally trust them. I remember just that sense of relief. Like that was a really cool place to be at because we could have kept them home. And I mean, we were broke, and either way, it's like you're broke sending them to, daycare, and you're broke keeping them home and not getting to work. But that was something my mind opened to, is just like, yeah, it's not the end of the world to put your kid in daycare if you find the right place, in my mind. If you're not strategic about it, you just like pick whatever's off the street. I don't recommend that. But a lot of people don't have a lot of options anyway.
Dude, yeah. I mean, those wait lists for daycares right now are nuts.
I know. Well, and this wasn't some like highfalutin thing. It was just like, it was connected to our church, and we just knew the people, and that was just really special to us. And so nobody should feel pressured if it's like you have to work and you have to find a daycare.
But our kids also went to public pre-K. Yeah,
they did. I forgot about that. Yeah, we did try different Mother's Day out programs and different pre-K and stuff like that. And I think before parenthood, I just had no idea just like how awesome that is to just, even for you to have that Mother's Day out and stuff like that.
It was so great.
Yeah, my mind opened that to up a lot. And I'll also say another thing, like we've never ever wanted to homeschool, and we both didn't grow up in homeschool. We both grew up in very large public schools, but now I can actually like appreciate why people do that. And if we didn't have the option where our kids go to school now, I'm like, I could see us maybe trying to figure out how to wing. Yeah, like I totally respect that now. Mm-hmm. And it was just such a foreign world to me growing up.
Well, and we were both public school teachers, so yeah, it was like.
So I don't. It's not like a preference, but when I talk to other homeschool parents, I'm like vibing. I'm like, okay, like I get this. I kind of like what you're doing.
Yeah. For sure.
Last question: how to let go and let your kids take risks? New mom and scared of everything.
I'd like to answer this one.
Well, I want to answer it too.
But I'll answer first.
You go first. Ladies first.
I think that it starts when your kids are crawling, moving around. Yeah, yes. I think this mom obviously is a little further along. So I'm going to talk to like people who are maybe newly pregnant or have little babies. Man, when your babies and your toddlers are looking to you for how to respond. So let's say they're walking or crawling or whatever, and they trip and they fall. They're looking to you to know, unless they really hurt themselves, which then they just immediately start crying and like, okay, they need my help. But there's a lot, I mean, I remember just distinctly, like, they would kind of fall and kind of, scrape their hand. And then they would look at me.
Yep.
And it was like, they were looking to be like, what should I do? Should I cry? Should I not cry? I don't know. Maybe, yes. And I would be really deliberate on how I would respond. I would say, sometimes I would even clap like, yay, you got back up. I would be positive, and that gave them confidence to be able to keep taking risks. Yeah. But for me as a mom, I had to really drill down in me that kids really naturally know how to set their own limits when it comes to risky play. They're really good at it.
Biological.
I mean, there's definitely, of course, situations where you want to, they're getting close to a really high ledge on a playground. Like, I'm going to be watching out, but am I going to like tell them to come down from that high ledge? No, I'm not.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be there. I'm going to be making sure they don't fall off, of course. And if they do accidentally get close, I might say, oh, let's walk over here. Let's walk more in the center. But I actually really want for them to have confidence and to like to risky play because of the research benefits for their own self-awareness, their own self-confidence, all of that. And so that would be like a tidbit that I would give for a parent who has a little one, like a little one.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say, whoever has this question, this is the story of our generation right now. Like, we are the most anxious generation of parents ever, because we're overinformed, and therefore we have the most anxious generation of kids these days. The most hyper aware. I heard a child the other day that was talking about, I can't even remember. It was just something so high level about different dangers or toxins, or I can't even remember. Or, just kids nowadays are so hyper aware of how they feel. Like, I remember rolling my ankle and getting hurt all the time and being sore and bruised up, and that was just part of life. Like, kids will like obsess on it. And so I would say a thing you gotta remember as a parent, like, you have a responsibility to help your kids stay safe, but you also have a responsibility to like let your kid take risks, like you're saying, and they learn for themselves. And it's very hard. I mean, I know that anxiety of being at a playground, you're just like, if you fall, you're going to die. And I like, what do? I want to give them space, but it does make me laugh because I remember a time that one of ours, I can't remember which one, was on the edge, was on a ledge at a playground, like pretty high up, not like the toddler playgrounds. Mm-hmm. And she fell off and landed on her head. Mm-hmm. And I thought, this is it. She broke her neck. I'm going to jail. Because I wasn't standing close to her, you know what I'm saying? And like, she cried and got up and was fine. And I was just like, what? How did you not just perish right now with, because the way she fell was like a nightmare. It's like exactly as a parent, what you fear the most when you're at a playground. But that was just, and it's not like, oh, no, don't worry about heights. But the principle I learned from that story was like, it was like kids are pretty resilient. And yes, you got to keep them safe. It's within reason, but they're going to get bumps and bruises, and that's just part of it. You've got to be hyper aware of, like you said, how you respond to things. Because I would say out of like one of our children is probably more impressionable than even the others. And I can look at some of maybe things I was like over careful on, or even the way you talk about stuff. See, when your baby becomes a toddler and they start becoming verbal and asking questions, even the way you talk about, thunderstorms as an example,
yes.
Even the way you talk about stuff, there's got to be a propaganda to it of like, I'm not going to instill all this fear inside of you. And
they also listen to adult conversations, so you have to be careful about how you talk about and like what you have on the news, what you have on, because you just never know what your kid will start fixating on.
Yeah.
Stranger danger.
I would just say to that question, the struggle is real. Every parent has that. And every parent forever has, I think, probably had this struggle. It's just so much harder right now because we are in the society of warning labels.
Right.
Everything has a warning label.
Everything's out to kill you.
There is no doctor that's going to say, I recommend you let your kid have risky play as much as possible. They're not going to say that, and then your kid get hurt and then they get sued. But truth is truth, and kids.
Well, no, and actually the pediatric associate, they have come out and talked about risk. And if you haven't read The Anxious Generation, that's a good one. You should just go and read that book, even though your child is assumedly small. It could be really helpful for you just to learn some of the research on the benefits of risky play, so you can have a little bit more, confidence in letting your kid. But I mean, I think this question maybe came from, I posted a video on our Instagram of, we were at some waterfalls recently, and one of our girls was going like climbing all these rocks and going behind the waterfalls, and I had taken a video of it and I put it up on Instagram and just talked about how like the process of us allowing our kids to engage in risky play and how important that's been, because now they feel really confident. And I felt confident about her doing that, even though she was high up. Could she have slipped and fallen and busted her head open underneath the waterfall? Yes, that totally could have happened. I trust her because I know she trusts herself, and I know she knows her own limits. And that's because we've worked with her on that. And they have so much fun. They have so much more fun. Yeah. And they get to explore, and
they're not filled with anxiety.
No,
because what you don't want is your kid is you want to go on a hike and your kid's scared. And I've spent a lot of time around a lot of children. Like I do notice children that I am like, wow, you are like abnormally careful and hyper aware of danger, like to a fault. Like you can't just have fun and be a kid.
Right. And I'll hear parents, it's like they constantly are, be careful, don't do that, don't do this, be careful. It's like they're constantly giving input about every rock their kids step on and everything. And I mean, that only is going to build anxiety, and you have to be careful. You're
going to make mistakes. Right. Your kid's going to get hurt.
Your kid's going to trip and fall.
But like the world is dangerous. And you cannot protect them from everything. Yeah. And I think what parents struggle with is just the shame or guilt they feel if something happened. Like if one of our daughters would have fallen off that cliff and busted their head or worse. But I think what's happened inside of me, at least, I know I have already gone there and been like, if that happened, like that's not my fault. Like that is planet Earth. Like it's dangerous. And I'm not going to hold back a kid's experience because of the small chance something could go wrong. obviously our kids are a lot older. They're not a toddler climbing up a cliff.
Right.
That's
No.
different.
Yeah, we would not do that.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
if the toddler wanted to go, let's say this, the toddler wanted to go behind the waterfall, we would go with them.
Bingo. Yeah.
And we would teach them, oh, be careful. That might be a little slippery.
Yeah.
Okay, put your feet right here. Okay, wow, this is so cool. Okay,
Yeah,
let's
exactly.
leave, and it would be fun.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Good
That's
question.
good. Yep.
All right. Well, next time we do Q&A, be sure to send your question. It can be about anything.
Anything.
About us personally, about parenthood, marriage, birth, whatever you want.
All right. Talk to y'all later.
See ya.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening today. It would mean so much to us if you left a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you heard this.
And let us know your thoughts on today's episode by leaving a comment on Spotify or YouTube, where you can also watch these episodes.